Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back once again to the Unlimited Audible podcast. We are back in record time, recording on regular episodes on back-to-back nights, which, like, man, we never do that. It's usually like it's a Patreon bonus episode. But we got to preview basketball season, and we can't lock that behind the paywall. That don't feel right.
Right.
Maybe we could have done early access, but exhibition game coming up tomorrow. Anyways, this is your host, Jared. I'm joined by my co-host, Adrian. Adrian, thank you for joining me back on such a quick turnaround. Sometimes I feel like we need to recharge our recording juices, so to speak. We need to get into like the race cryo, get our red blood cells regenerated. But I'm confident we can find the grit to push through on back-to-back nights.
Hey, we got to find the grit. Look, we're in November. It's the home stretch of the football season, and podcast content is only revving up. We're never slowing down. No bye weeks, right? We're going to do it double time. Give us the 2 a days, 3 a weeks, whatever you want to call it. We're here for it, man. We're here for it. And
speak for yourself. I'm ready for a break, man.
Well, I do appreciate you moving up podcast recording times in order to try to facilitate a nice, docile evening watching World Series action. So this helps.
Yeah, I'm happy to make that sacrifice in any time. I'll be watching the game myself. And, I say that I'm ready for a break, but to tell you the truth, as long as these new Patreon subscribers keep rolling in, it keeps me plenty of energized to keep the podcast rolling. So I'm going to go right off the bat with the Patreon shout outs. Even since we just recorded yesterday, 2 new subscribers. Thank you guys. Eric Moreno, the booster tier, and Nico Proano at the insider tier. Thank you guys. Much appreciated. Welcome to the inside. And as always, thank you to our big money donors, Ben Tovar, Rick Cortez. Oh, wait, I got to shout out Ben, him and his wife for the Roadrunner Athletic Fund Donors of the Month.
Donors of the Month.
I guess by default, they make some the Patreon support of the month. So congrats to Ben and Andrea. Cool. Thank you as well to Rick Cortez of Rowdy Road Grillers, the Bunch family, Zach Espericueta, the San Antonio Podcast Network, Brandon Padron, and, of course, our board of trustees members, Digiteek, John Otwell, Lino Perez of Los Dos Rowdy's Tailgating, Gary and Ribbon representing the UTSA Bird Gang Tailgate, Ray Redding and Meet Me Apparel, Brandon Grill, the Grill Realty Group, and Andy Elizalde and Proficient Benefit Solutions.
Very nice.
So thank you guys. Rare to do a Patreon shout out within the first 3 minutes of the recording, but it felt right. I was feeling the love from the supporters.
Yeah, it absolutely was right. I think that was fantastic, Jared. You did a great job on that.
Oh, thanks, bud.
Very good job.
Oh, man, I forgot that I was trying to do an adjective for you when I introduced you on every episode.
Right.
I dropped the ball. I got to come up with one on the spot now.
It's okay. It's okay, man. The
undeniable age Bermudez.
Bang, baby. Yeah, I like that. Undeniable. We will not be denied, Jared. Though I am not sure we can say the same for UTSA men's basketball going into this season.
Damn.
They might get denied a couple times as we work our way to this schedule here.
They might.
It ain't gonna be easy. And look, it's been a tumultuous couple of years for UTSA. We're coming off of a 10-22 record from 2021. That includes notable losses to A&M Commerce, A&M Corpus Christi, and a pretty nasty one, 18-point, maybe not a blowout, but a significant loss to UTRGV. I mean, I know.
If I remember correctly, I think RGV was playing on an interim coach last year too.
Man, I know we're a satellite campus ourselves, but there is a hierarchy of satellite campuses when it comes to different institutions. Fact of the matter is UTSA should not be dropping games to a Commerce, a Corpus, or an RGV in any circumstance in any sport ever.
Well, and even if we did drop one of those games, it should feel like a huge shock. It should feel like a massive upset. But when we lost those games last year, it did not feel unexpected, and it did not feel like a fluke.
Maybe you lose one of them out of the season, but to lose all 3 in the same year. Yeah, nothing fluky about it. This was a bad basketball team last season.
Yeah, and conference play didn't treat them that much better. They only had 3 wins in Conference USA.
Mm-hmm.
Two of those wins were two of the worst programs in the country, in FIU and Southern Miss. One of those schools that isn't in Conference USA anymore. So that's one of those free gimme wins on the conference schedule that's gone.
Mm-hmm.
UTSA was so bad last year. They were ranked 312th out of 358 Division I schools.
Gosh, dude.
One spot ahead of Maryland Eastern Shore in the Ken Palm rankings. Have you ever heard of Maryland Eastern Shore? Is that real?
Is that the equivalent of A&M Corpus Christi for Maryland? I don't know.
It might be worse.
Might be a step lower, right?
It might be.
Dude, that is brutal, man. Just brutal. Yeah, 3-15 conference record last season with a nice, juicy 1-11 road record. Literally only one game away from the Convo, and almost 500 at home, 8-10 in the historic Convo last season.
I'm sorry, man. I barely paid attention to what you were saying. I'm still stuck on Maryland Eastern Shore. When you Google Maryland Eastern Shore, like the university is like way at the bottom of the Google search results.
Yeah, but are we getting a sweet mascot for Maryland Eastern Shore? What's that guy look like? You know, we like to do our deep dives into abstract school mascots sometimes. I don't think we've had one in a little while.
No, we haven't. Man, hopefully we can get away from that a little bit going into the AAC and playing some real Division I teams more consistently. But it looks like the Maryland Eastern Shore is like an owl of some sort, like a maroon owl.
Oh, no, he's legit looking.
Yeah, they're an HBCU.
Yeah. Good color palette, good design on him, full spread. Might be a hawk of some sort.
But I don't see athletics anywhere on their university website.
Oof. Interesting.
Yeah. Tough times, man. Tough times.
Tough times for men's basketball. And as we look ahead,
time to turn a new leaf.
No, well, I mean, are we turning a new leaf, Jared? Or
no, I guess not. I'm sorry. I'm trying, Adrian. I'm trying.
I think it's the same leaf going to be extended for another season here. And look, I don't even think that this team is in a rebuild phase yet. We're past the point of needing to begin a rebuild, but that just hasn't quite started. I don't think that the rebuild process will happen for men's basketball while Coach Steve Henson is still at the helm. It feels like in order for this full-on rebuild to happen, it's going to happen along with a Steve Henson dismissal. You bring in a new guy and then kind of really tear everything down and rebuild it from the ground up. But for now, we're still just kind of searching for pieces that we can stick on this roster to come out and be competitive for two halves. And even that is sort of a stretch for this team.
Yeah, I think so. I think when you look at the guys that were brought in, it's a lot of like stopgap kind of solutions.
Right.
Man, Steve Henson and his staff were really grinding through the JUCO ranks and the prep ranks to find some of these guys. When you look at like the roster, you see a lot of players that have like 4 slashes for their previous schools.
Oh, yeah.
Like Japhet Medor, it's like Wellington, Florida / Lake Worth High School / Santa Fe, Florida / Hillsborough, Florida Community College.
Right.
Same deal on John Bucks III. Homer, Louisiana, Summerfield High School, Putnam Science Academy, UMass, Hill College, UTSA now. So it's like a lot of journeyman college basketball players, right? And, you know, it's not like they're walking into the best JUCOs in the country and getting the best guy on the team.
Right.
Definitely not going and grabbing, 4-star recruits, like they once did with Jacob Germany, right? So that's not to say that these guys aren't going to be bad. I mean, I think the 2 guys that I just listed are probably the two of the largest reasons for optimism on this team. But just kind of goes to show how hard Steve Henson and staff are having to work to get quality players to UTSA. They're having to kind of go in some unconventional paths to find some guys.
Yeah, it's not really an attractive place to play right now. And I think you make a good point when you talk about you're not getting the studs from JUCO. I mean, more or less, you're looking for guys that I think still want to get another season or two under their belt while they still have the eligibility, right? Guys looking to extend their career for a little bit longer while they're seniors, super seniors, or whatever it is. But it's not the pick of the litter. Far from it.
Yeah, but that's not to say that, these guys can't turn out to be, hidden gems or diamonds in the rough, if you will.
Or be better than some of those same journeymen that were on the team last season.
Right.
That they're coming in and replacing.
Right. Exactly. So I guess, do you want to go into the starting five or our predicted starting five?
Yeah, I think that'd be a good place to start.
I know I made the notes here. Did you disagree with my starting five, or was that the same one that you think you would have came up with?
I definitely am in agreement with it. I maybe you could talk. No, I'm pretty spot on with it, going over it. Maybe Japhet or Lachlan you might think about, but I don't think so. I think both those guys are pretty locked in to be starters too. So right now, the way Jared has it spelled out is Japhet Medor at point guard, Eric Kazumble shooting guard, Lachlan Bowfinger as a small forward, Alou as, well, I guess he'll be a center, and then Jacob Germany as the power forward, stretch four.
Yeah. I mean, I guess Germany and Alou would kind of.
They're kind of interchangeable.
Neither of them are real centers.
They're both 4/5. Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But I think Jacob Germany. Well, no, that's not true, because Alou also has an ability to shoot the ball, so they both have stretch four potential as well.
Yeah. I think that's a good way to put it. UTSA is probably going to play with two different stretch fours. They do list Germany as a center on the roster, but I mean, we've seen him play, right? We kind of know what he brings to the table. He is not your traditional, butt up against the defender, box out, kind of big body type of guy. So, I mean, UTSA is just going to be playing small ball all season, I think, pretty much as a plan. And this is their normal lineup. This isn't even the small ball lineup of when they're really trying to get out and push the ball and play with a hot tempo, right? So yeah, it's pretty crazy. But I guess we can run through those five guys real quick. Starting with Medor, I think he's probably been the most promising newcomer that UTSA has brought in. He's a guy that's really made a name for himself already. In fact, in the game preview that UTSA just released for the exhibition game against Schreiner this week, they have him listed as a likely starter. And I think he might be the only player they mentioned by name in that preview. So definitely a guy who is probably going to stand out a little bit. It's been so long since UTSA's had a real pass first point guard. I'm going back in my head throughout the years, and man, I don't know.
I don't know either.
I really can't think of anyone.
It's got to date back to when we were in
Brooks
school.
era, right?
Yeah, it's got to be Brooks Thompson era.
Yeah, but even those guys, I mean, Michael Hale, I wouldn't call him a pass first point guard. I don't know. I have to do some research on that after the recording. But when you hear a pass first point guard, you kind of have a certain image in your head. He's probably a little bit smaller, probably not that athletic. But Medor's an athlete. There's some videos of him dunking at the what do they call it? The Rowdy Jam. Yeah. He's got some ups to him. He can throw down. He's got some decent shooting ability. I don't think he's a dynamic scorer by any means, but I think UTSA for a long time has really been missing that kind of conductor of the offense, the guy that can really keep the ball flowing, find the open lanes and, just kind of orchestrate things a little bit better, as opposed to five different guys just trying to find their shot and get it off. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. He looks to be explosive, and I think you're going to need a facilitator on this team. It seems like we've got enough shooters, at least some shooters with some range, 3-point threats, that we get somebody to facilitate the ball around, get these guys the ball, then things will work good. It'll be a very, very different look than anything we've had in the past. I mean, typically we're used to point guard bringing up the ball, running the plays, looking for ISO action, passing it off, and then maybe trying to get the ball back right after they pass it. There's been a lot of point guard dominant offensive play from the UTSA Roadrunners for quite some time now. So I think it'll be refreshing. I'm sure Steve Henson will like to finally have facilitator at the one, but we'll see if it can work out. I'm optimistic, and I do think that it's going to be a much better fit than a guy that's trying to just run every single. And even whenever we have a really talented point guard that can run an ISO and do that to a degree, it gets predictable and really easy to guard against. So this is necessary.
Yeah, I think the question I have is like, does the rest of the roster have the, I guess, like discipline and experience to be proficient in a half court offense? You know, like doing those screens away from the ball, staying in motion, moving, having a feel for where the defender's at without having to actually look and see them.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm hoping to see, is that they're good at that and can get those easy buckets that you would get with a good passing point guard. So without having seen the team play yet, that's one of my bigger questions on the offense. Yeah,
sure. Can we have guys remain mobile without the ball in their hands in order to get open, right? Cause those open looks. Yeah,
right. That'll be, because I don't think that's been the case past couple of years. It's just like they're kind of standing around, they're watching Keaton dribble, they're watching Javon dribble.
Yup.
They're watching what was the guy's name last year that quit the team? I've already wiped it from my memory. Yeah, they're watching Dudang jack up bricks.
Yeah, man.
And I get it. Like you don't feel like incentivized to go out and hustle on offense and move around the half court when those guys are just going to jack a shot up anyways, right?
You don't feel involved, right? You don't feel involved, right? And so how can you sit there and be excited to be on the floor and be putting in extra effort to move off ball if you know your chances of getting an opportunity to take a shot are virtually zero? Yeah,
it's like, I think I once heard a coach say something like, you want to be a participant in the offense, not an observer, or something like that.
Yeah.
You want to make plays happen and like know that even if you're not going to get a bucket, you're going to get your opportunities because the team can distribute the ball and everyone has a little bit of a role to play, right?
And we've definitely seen a lot of standing and watching on offense from UTSA over past years. Yeah, big time.
Yeah. Well, moving along our Aluminum Audible projected starting five, I think Eric Azumbel is too good and too veteran of a presence to move to the bench. We mostly have seen him playing at the one throughout his career at UTSA, but I think he's got the ability to play that combo guard role. And, when Japhet comes off the court, Azumbel probably slides to point guard, right? And, and they'll move those guys around. So I think you're going to see Eric's in the starting lineup this week. He's been one of the few, I guess, faces of stability in this program throughout these last couple of years, right? So it's going to be a great sign, I think, if Azumbel does move to the bench, because you have a great veteran point guard coming off the bench, and that's phenomenal. I mean, that's where you want to be if you're a good basketball program, and it would probably show that some of those young guys have found their shot and have stepped into a scoring role. So,
yeah, look, man, the guy's been at the program since 2019. You need that consistency. You need some sort of leadership out there on the floor. I know this team doesn't necessarily have an identity of any sort, but still, you've got to have somebody, right, that embodies that consistency of being there year over year. And I don't know if he'll be a floor general or like whenever I say captain, I don't know if he'll be floor general in that regard, but he's absolutely going to be a captain and a leader on this team. In the huddle, in the locker room, this guy is extremely important, and he's going to have a lot of influence whenever it comes to what guys are going to listen to in the locker room. I think Eric Azumbel, his years here, veteran led, I think he's earned that influence and he's earned that respect amongst his peers.
We've spent a lot of time questioning, I guess, the level of effort and intensity on the defensive side of the ball from most of the guards that have played for Steve Henson in the past couple of years. I don't think you can have that complaint with Eric. He really gives it his all on both sides. And, just brings a certain hustle and like you said, leadership to this team.
11 steals and 7 blocks last season. Passed for 90 assists, only 37 turnovers. He's consistent, man. He's old, reliable, right?
Yeah, not a game breaker, but just having a steady hand on this team is going to be important this year.
Yeah, check it out. Last year against Southern Miss, he logged a double-double in points and assists And it was the very first points, assists, double-double for UTSA since Giovanni De Nicolau in 2018. So there you go about that for the Italian connection on point double-doubles. Will we have a points and assists double-double in 2022, Jared?
So that Southern Miss game, I think it might have been after the Christmas break, right? So it might have been an actual calendar year 2022. Do you remember?
Yeah, that sounds right. Let's check.
Let's assume that it was, right? So you're telling me that UTSA went 3 full calendar years without a points and assists double-double?
That's correct. Yep. It was January of 2022, that Southern Miss game. So it would be 3 years and 2 Italian-born players, the only 2 guys that can get us those points, assists, double-doubles, Italian-born guards. Yeah. Wow.
Well, if we were recording a Patreon episode right now, my choice of language would be quite different. But let me just say that is unfreaking believable.
It's unacceptable that you can go 3 years without a points, assist, double-double.
I feel like that might be some kind of record.
Like collegiate?
That is crazy, man. That is mind-blowing to me.
Yeah, I almost want them to erase that line from Kazumbo's bio. Like, y'all can talk about his double-double, but we don't need to bring up the fact that we had 3 years without one.
Like, that's our job to do at Audible. Like, SID doesn't even throw in the shade like that.
So shade.
Oh, man.
That's brutal.
Well, moving on to the small forward and starting lineup, I think this one's pretty much a lock.
Yeah.
Unintended. Lachlan Bowfinger. It feels like he just gets better every week, every month he's in this program.
No doubt.
I think that he was a little bit, I don't know, out of his depth a little bit when he was freshman. He played 17 games off the bench, played a pretty good amount, but there were just a lot of times he looked out of place out there. Like he wasn't sure what to do with the ball, how to rotate on defense, stuff like that. But you see him kind of, I think, build that basketball IQ of like playing at a high level. He goes and plays internationally every offseason. I think that's helped him develop his game a lot as well. So I think we're going to see a lot of minutes from Lachlan this year. Another guy is a really great athlete that can jump out of the gym. When you look at his picture on the roster, you don't picture this guy, throwing down tomahawk dunks and stuff like that. I don't know. He looks kind of goofy, I guess, but 6'7", he's got some length to him. Like, yeah,
he's got some bounce. He's got some bounce. He can raise up, double hand slam, dude, throw it down. Yeah, Lachlan's got some bounce. And I like that you bring up the fact that he's consistently playing overseas every single year. So Lachlan's from Australia. And he plays some sort of international ball in the offseason. And you got to understand, I mean, when you're going and playing these international tournaments, you're playing against some grown men. You're not just playing against other college guys. I mean, you're playing against full-grown, mature guys of some big bodies. And the experience and I think the bell curve at which you gain that experience and that familiarity, it's tremendous. It's absolutely tremendous. And so Lachlan is a guy that he's going to be, I think, another force of consistency for this team, right? We talk about Kazumbo. It might even be more so the case with Lachlan. He could very well be a starter throughout the season, a guy that's consistent and a guy that performs for you night in and night out when it comes to getting you some boards. He averaged 4 boards last year. And damn near shot 50% from the field. Fairly decent from a big man. But this is a guy that he's going to be more of a workhorse. He's going to be getting you those rebounds. He's going to be getting you the blocks. He's going to be getting mean down low. Yeah, man. Lachlan Bowfinger, you got to rely on him for that. If anyone's going to be down there and be like the dirty workhorse, I think Lachlan's got to be the guy for that team, for this team.
Yeah, he played about 15, 16 minutes a game last season, 3.5 points per game, just under 4 rebounds per game. Do you think he could double those numbers this year, right?
For sure.
Is that foreseeable?
I think he could average 7 to 8 rebounds per game. I think that's very so possible.
Too.
Yeah.
But what I really like about Bowfinger is he gives you that flexibility that you want to see at the small forward, where he can go up and he shoots the 3 well enough that he can play the shooting guard and, give that kind of defense on the perimeter at 6'7", but he can also jump tall enough that he can go play power forward in a pinch, right? If need be. And you might see that when UTSA goes to a small lineup, you might see Bowfinger drop down to the 4 and then bring another guard out on the court. So I do like he brings that flexibility to Steve Henson to kind of shuffle up the lineup a little bit.
So on the sports, he was with Sports Reach Basketball, some sort of club, I suppose, playing in Jamaica throughout May. And in Jamaica, Bowfinger was averaging 19.7 points per game, 6.7 rebounds per game, and 3.2 assists over a 6-game tour. Shooting 77% from the field, son. Good
God. What kind of league was this, man?
So it was a 6-game tour. Saw Sports Reach go 6-0. I don't have a lot of info on Sports Reach, but impressive numbers nevertheless.
Hey, yeah, I mean, even shooting for 19 a game in the rec league is impressive because the shots still got to fall one way or the other.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The shots still got to fall. Yeah, so I don't know. It looks like it's some sort of collective. Maybe collective is not the right word. But it's a platform of sports. I guess it's pretty open for anyone to kind of sign up, get involved. But they have teams for all sorts, man.
You better sign up, bro.
I don't know, dude. I feel like it's been a while since my rec days, but I'm not saying I'm any Lachlan Bowfinger myself. But can I get out there and get you 2-3 assists? I think so.
Hey, I got 5 fouls to use. I'm gonna use them, man.
I got 5 fouls
to use.
Yeah,
I got to make sure that rest whistle's getting a workout. Paying money for that thing. All right, well, moving further down the starting lineup, I think Alu is probably going to make the crack into a full-time starter this year. I think he started some games last year.
He had 4 starts last
year.
Yeah, and he had a preseason injury that he had to kind of rehab off of at the beginning of the year. So
yeah, and that's exactly what I was going to say. He was kind of hampered. Yeah, I think he was kind of hampered by injury last year. The videos that the JB Replay has been posting, he looks like a freak athlete, man. And I think that's probably the biggest difference that you see from this team compared to last is like, well, maybe not last year, but the year before that is like they're really starting to get some real length around the perimeter. And I think Alu is a great example of that. He's 6'9", but his wingspan makes him look even taller than that. So he's able to go up and, throw the dunk down with effort, right? I got to see a pretty good performance from him at the Toyota Center. I think Houston played Sam Houston there, and he looked very natural out on the court, right? You saw the high ceiling, I think, that he has athletically. So, just want to see him polish his game up, right? But I think he's a guy that has the physicality to be a plus player for UTSA. And, if he's able to stay healthy and just build on his game, I think he could be a solid addition for sure.
Yeah, I think he's just got to tighten up things a little bit with his shooting. But physically, yeah, you're absolutely right, Jared. He's 6'9". He'll be a senior now. So he's got, a pretty good tenure of experience behind him. He was at Temple Community College before he came to UTSA last season, where he actually shot the ball a lot better. He was really, really involved at Temple. And so I think maybe we just didn't get a chance to see Alu at his true top health and best physical performance last season. I think just rehabbing that preseason injury and kind of getting in and out of the lineup. Only 15 minutes per night. But this season, he only played in 10 games last season. So this season, I think he's going to be a hell of a lot more involved. But I think you're going to see a way different version of him than you saw last year. I think you're going to see a fully healthy, extremely physical Alu, who might have a point to prove out here, UTSA. Because he balled at Temple Community College and probably really feels like he can do it at this level. Just, got short end of the stick last year. And now he's got a point to prove.
He's the type of guy that should be a beast on the pick and roll game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like put the ball, one bounce on the ball, take 2 steps, and you're there, right? He's got that kind of
super long body. Yeah. Just reach out. You can put the ball so far out in front of him, he can reach out and get to it, and then easily just finger roll right in there. Yeah.
Well, last up on the starting lineup is no surprise. You guys are probably wondering when we're going to get to him. Jacob Germany, obviously here to wrap up his career at UTSA.
Germany.
It's so bittersweet to talk about Jacob because he's such a talented player. He's been so good for UTSA.
I'll say it like this. We spent the first 10 minutes of this podcast completely railing on last year's men's basketball team, how bad and pitiful and abysmal they were. Jacob Germany still earned honorable mention all CUSA last year, despite a 10-win team. I mean, it speaks for itself.
Right.
The dude started all 32 games. He was a team leader in points, 15 points per night, 7 rebounds. Dude, I mean, it's just all over the place. He had 10 double-doubles, not points and assists, double-doubles, but 10 double-doubles, 48% from the field. Just a monster. And 27 minutes a night, dude. He's really, really starting to come into his own. You know, I think like the freshman year, everyone was excited about him. Sophomore year, I think he really had a bit of maturing to do and a lot of learning to do, a lot of growing to do. But last season, you really saw him start to come into his own at being a dominant sort of center stretch four player.
Yeah, his improvement year in and year out is really, really impressive. You know, he came in as maybe the highest rated recruit in program history.
Yeah, maybe so.
I don't know. You can fact check me on that. He's high up there for sure.
There's a 4-star center coming out of Oklahoma.
Right. And he's developed like really well. You know, look at his points per game. Freshman year, 5.5, sophomore year, 10.3. And then last year as a junior, 14.7. Right. Yeah. Hard to expect him to continue to grow, 5 points per game, and drop 20 a night. But his rebounding has improved as well. We've seen him put weight on. He did have to deal with a preseason injury or health scare. I think he had a irregular heart rhythm that had to get checked out, but he got cleared. So, if he can continue to have the output that he had last year, man, you just got to tip your hat to this guy. Everyone in the gym knows the ball's going to go to him, right? Knows how good he is. So for him to do that with very little help around him is very impressive. And, I really commend Jacob for sticking it out at UTSA. I mean, a lot of other cats would hit the transfer portal already, but he's here for the long haul. He's a great ambassador for UTSA. He supports all the other UTSA athletics programs. And it's cool. It seems like he's friends with a lot of students as well. Like there's always that disconnect between student athletes and regular students, but it seems like buddies with the kids in the student section and stuff. So I think that says a lot about his character, right?
Yeah, he's a fan favorite, right? A man of the people. And yeah, not something you see very often. I also think the fact that Germany has remained at UTSA all 4 years, I mean, a 4-star, you can easily go somewhere else and not just go somewhere else, but get minutes, get playing time somewhere else and thrive at another CUSA school, another group of 5 school. So I do think it goes to speak to Steve Henson. I'm not sure the dynamic of their relationship, but I've got to imagine Germany is pretty fond of Henson to be able to stick around all 4 years underneath him on this roster. And yeah, just pretty fond of UTSA as an institution, right? As a school that he goes to. But I think, Jared, with Alu and with Lachlan Bowfinger starting to really come into their own, becoming more of a threat to opposing defenses, that it's really going to open up opportunity for Jacob Germany.
It'll spread the floor out for sure. It's bound to.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I think so. I mean, at this point, you've got 3 guys that are, all above 6'6", 6'7", that you're going to have to account for. All 3 of them on the floor at the same time. Pretty large, long dudes, pretty beefy, ready to get down there and get scrappy with you.
I think Jacob is at his best when he can kind of have that kind of pop jump shot, right? Like at the elbow or right outside the paint,
Bust off it, yeah.
As good as he is, I think he struggles a little bit when he has to body up a real center and back him down with his back to the basket. So the more that UTSA can avoid putting him in those situations, the better. So if there's a good flow, good motion to the offense, you guys got guys slashing the basket, you got screens being set, it's going to be a lot easier for Jacob to get those easy shots that he excels at.
Yeah, I like see him pop out, catch and shoot, Klay Thompson style. Yeah, it's definitely where he thrives. I know we talk about Medor and Kazumble being the guards. Germany's not so much of a real ball handler himself. Lulu maybe a little bit. Lachlan Bowfinger, not so much. Who's really going to be the guy with the handles on this team? Are we going to rely on Japhet Medor to be that dude?
Yeah, hands down. Yeah, I don't know. I guess Christian Tucker played point guard a bit last year, right?
Yeah.
So I think he'll probably get some run at point guard. But I think Kazumble will probably step into the point for the most part when Medor's off the court. But I think those guys will be the two primary ball handlers on most minutes.
Okay.
But, speaking of Christian Tucker, I guess we can go ahead and transition to guys that are going to be like first off the bench, right? Those real like rotational pieces.
Yeah, Christian Tucker, I think you could say is a six man for sure.
Yeah, former walk-on, right? Or was he a scholarship player? Do you know?
No. So he was came out of prep school in high school, but we had him as a freshman last year. So I think he's a scholarship guy.
Yeah.
He played in 25 games at 6 starts last year, 15 minutes average. Only 3 points, 1.7 rebounds, 1.2 assists. But he had a lot of learning to do. He's still more on the small side. Christian Tucker's only 6'3", 178 pounds. And I think he's just got a little bit of more growing to do before he's really able to start to kind of take off into his own. But he got a lot of really significant minutes last season. So I don't see his time allotment diminishing by any means.
Mm-hmm. I think another guard that you're going to see a ton of this year is John Buggs III. So this guy's had a very interesting path to UTSA, just like Japhet Medor did. So Buggs, I think, actually signed with UMass out of high school or maybe out of prep school. Left there, went to Hill College, which is in the same JUCO conference as Temple, which we were talking about with Alu. And I'm not really sure what the scenario was that led to him leaving UMass, but he was like really well liked there. Like when I started to do some research on Buggs, I found a lot of UMass fans and UMass accounts like wishing him well, like, man, it sucks it didn't work out for you. So he quickly became like a fan favorite up there in Amherst. That was pretty interesting. They've got a pretty strong program up there at UMass. But I think Buggs is a guy that can and should lead the team in 3-point shooting. I think that's really where he's going to find his kind of niche on this roster. He was 47% in his time in JUCO. Actually was the 11th ranked JUCO 3-point shooter. Yeah. And that was sorely needed for this roster. I think you have some guys that can put the three up off the dribble that we saw, with Javon and Keaton, right? But I don't think there's been like that real like catch and shoot 3-point guy on the roster for a while. So I think Buggs really can bring that to the table, and combined with Medor's, distribution skills to the point. I think that's going to be a pretty nice little pairing right there.
Yeah, very nice.
Yeah, and while Buggs is like transferred to so many schools, he's still only a redshirt sophomore. So UTSA should get 3 years out of him.
Oh, nice. Very good. This guy that you could see developing into a really integral piece like that. And one more off the bench. Sabali.
Yeah, I would think so. He had a pretty nice little showing as a freshman, had 10 starts as a true freshman. Can't complain with that. Stats were the same as a lot of the guys we talked about 3 points a game, couple of rebounds, not a lot of assists.
Right.
But I think that he does bring a lot of length at the wing position. He is 6'8". So he had some possessions last year that he really showed the ability to like lock down on defense. So for him to do that as a freshman, you got to figure as he continues to develop and get stronger, right? He's only going to bring more of that to the table.
Coming out of high school, this guy was pretty beefy, man. He was 3-star. He was the 12th best prospect in Arizona, and the 45th best small forward in the nation coming out of high school.
Yeah, get this. His sister was actually the number 2 overall pick in the 2020 WNBA draft.
Yeah. How about
that's pretty wild.
Yeah. Crazy.
So any eligibility left?
Genetics. Yeah, man. So I think it's just a guy who's developing, coming into his own, but all the potential in the world is there for Sabali to get there.
I think a lot of the same things that we said about Alu could also be said for Sabali.
That's fair. Yeah,
they're very similar players.
Mm-hmm.
I think Alu's like stronger, but Sabali, I think a little bit craftier on the court.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, Alu's size, he's larger for sure.
Yeah,
but Sabali could definitely, I think, bring a little bit more creative play here.
So some of the other like new names to know on this roster, I don't know if all these guys are going to be like real contributors, like, here in November. But some interesting names that I wanted to float out. DJ Richards is a guy that has a really high ceiling. He was a big time player at Cypress Creek High School here in Houston.
Yes, sir. He
actually went to the same prep academy as Lachlan Bowfinger, Monteverde Academy in Florida, which puts a lot of guys into the NBA.
Yeah.
So definitely a good sign for him to go to that prep school. I'm not sure why he didn't get picked up coming out of high school. I think he went to the state playoffs.
Dude, he was the 17th best player in Texas coming out of high school. Dude, yeah, good.
So kind of confusing to me. I don't know if there was an injury or something somewhere along the way. But 6'5", 180, he can shoot, he can score, he can play a couple different positions. There's a lot to be excited about here. Just to me, like if UTSA would have signed him out of Cypress Creek and he was coming as a true freshman, I would be like really excited for him. But the fact that he went to Monteverde then came to UTSA is like, I don't know. I feel like it's part of the story I might be missing.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there's certainly something here. I mean, the potential is off the charts. It looks like it could be like the sleeping X factor, the dark horse X factor.
Yeah,
for this team. I mean, if you can come out and make a significant impact, I mean, you got to keep feeding this guy minutes. He's going to come out there and do that. I mean, nearly shot 50% from the floor and made more than a third of his 3-pointers whenever he was in high school. I like the potential of DJ Richards a lot, man. And, any ball player coming out of Houston that was able to ball on the varsity circuit in Houston at a 6A, I mean, the guy can hoop. Period.
Right. Period.
Extremely competitive over here when it comes to basketball, man.
Yep. Yeah. So definitely one of the guys I'm going to be watching closely. I'm sure he's going to get some run in the exhibition game tomorrow. So, excited to see how he pans out, whether it's this season or the next. I think he's probably the most promising. I don't know if we can really call him a high school recruit because he did that year in prep school.
Right.
But probably the most exciting freshman, I think, that Stephenson signed since Jacob Germany?
Yeah, that's fair.
Is that fair?
1,000% fair. Yeah.
Some other new names to know. Carlton Lingard. UTSA kind of made a splash getting this guy to the transfer portal. So he's from San Antonio.
San Antonio native, baby.
First San Antonio player to come to UTSA in God knows how long.
Wow.
Maybe some walk-ons, but
yeah.
Yeah, that was a big splash. He played at Stevens. He's been at Kansas State until coming to UTSA I think he's a graduate transfer. He's a senior. Don't know when we're going to see him though, because he's dealing with some health issues. They're slowly working him back onto the court. I think he's doing a lot of kind of low impact type stuff, right? He was not very prolific at Kansas State. Didn't play a whole lot. Didn't score a whole lot, but dropped down in competition. He's a true center that UTSA hasn't had in so freaking long. He's a legit 7-footer. I verified in person. I saw him at a tailgate. He's 7 foot for sure.
Yep.
Just to have a guy of that size to put on the court to protect the rim, especially when UTSA has a lead late in the game, is going to make a big difference. So I'm hoping he's able to get healthy. I hope he can have success at UTSA and maybe show some local guys, even guys that are playing at other D1 schools, that you can transfer home and have success.
Yeah, I think so. Well, I mean, he had a lot of success at Temple. He just wasn't quite as strong at Kansas State. And
that was Temple Community College, right?
Right. The community college, JUCO. So, yeah, he was a 12th best JUCO player, according to 24/7 while he was there, 2019, 2020. And I think when you look at the pure physical makeup, if there's a real true big man on the roster, it's Carlton Lingard. 7 foot, 218 pounds. The dude is beefy. The dude is physical. And you go and look at what he did blocking and rebounding in his past, there's a very, very good chance that he could be a force against some Conference USA opponents when it comes to attacking the boards and getting those rebounds for us. Hopefully we get to see him early on in 2023. That's weird to say. 2023. Mm-hmm. Carlton Lindgard, man, I think he's really the true big man on this team.
Yeah, I think the only one for sure.
Yeah,
like Jacob is tall, but he's not big, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And he's got the beefiness to complement the length as well.
Yeah. Last guy that I want to shout out again. I'm not sure we're going to see him on the court. We'll probably see him in the exhibition again, just like with Richards. Masal Diouf is a guy that I think is really interesting. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. He's Dutch, so Diouf.
It's from the Netherlands. Yep. Diouf.
From Gouda, Netherlands.
6'9". Oh, beautiful. Love me some Gouda. I think we had a Goops. Was it Gouda mashed potatoes that we had at Bohannon's on your?
Oh, yeah, dude.
Or goat cheese.
Goat cheese.
Yeah, goat cheese. Yeah. So, Masal Diouf, 6'9", 240 pounds, bro. Listed as a forward. And he's only a freshman, Jared. Still pretty young.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he looks like he needs some work physically, right, to get into peak athleticism. He looks a little doughy, right, to put it that way.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think he needs to build out that 240 pounds into more like lean muscle. But, I think he's another guy that's kind of crafty, kind of like Sabali, right? Like he can catch the ball on the block. He had some pretty nice shots that he put up in his highlight film. Mm-hmm. My favorite thing about him is there's something called the West Browns Monday morning scouting report that looks for prep basketball players in Canada. Rated him as a 4-leaf recruit.
Let's go. He got the coveted 4-leaf ranking from West.
They don't just hand those out, brother.
Yeah, dude, that is extra maple, my boy. So I love that, dude. And yeah, I love these international guys because their experience is so vast. I mean, they're playing year round a lot of the time. They're playing against older, more developed competition. Guy played in the Netherlands, played over Western Canada Prep Academy, played with the Dutch national team. Really impressive, man. You gotta love the smorgasbord of experience that comes with a guy like that. But sure, that was a good one. Got to get carved down a little bit, and then we got to see where he fits as far as the roster goes. But I love the fact that we've got him so young. Maybe a guy that you can see start to develop into an impact player, someone that's a regular rotation piece.
Right. Agreed. Are there any other guys on the roster that I didn't mention that you think are worth spending some time on?
That are worth spending time on. We didn't talk about Josh Farmer.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Josh Farmer, maybe if there's anyone that we left off, I'd probably say it's him.
Yeah, 6'10". I think if he has the right mindset, I think he'd be like a defensive enforcer. I don't know like how graceful he is on the offensive side of the ball. But he was ranked really highly coming out of Sharpstown High School.
Yes, sir.
I think I said this last year. I actually watched one of his games. It happened to be on YouTube. And I don't know. It was like he wasn't being challenged enough. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. Kind of like he was like walking through it. And like he still had like great numbers, but I didn't quite see the level of intensity that I wanted to see. So I think that's a big challenge for Steve Henson because he's got the potential in him, right? There's no doubt, like with his size, with his length.
And dude, a guy that's used to being so good and that's used to winning so much, and you come to a program where you're not getting the W's, it's easy to check out. It's easy to become unmotivated, uninvolved. But yeah, 3-star prospect coming out of high school in Sharpstown, was the 10th best player in the state of Texas. Was in the top 40 nationally among forwards, according to 24/7. This dude chose UTSA over Wake Forest, Florida State, Louisiana Tech, UT Arlington. I go, those are lateral moves. But Florida State, Wake Forest, you talk about great basketball history. Is to choose UTSA over Wake Forest at Florida State. It's pretty incredible, man. But he's played in 23 games off the bench last season. Same sort of thing, only a couple points, couple rebounds per game. I think you might have a good point. He just wasn't being challenged. Maybe just wasn't enthused to be playing on a team where, the outcome was inevitable. But I think if this guy can get his energy up, get his mindset right, absolutely could be an X factor for UTSA coming off the bench.
I think it's also hard to adjust from, I don't know who else in Sharpstown's district, but it's not like Cypress Creek, right? Like you're not playing a lot of guys.
You're not. Yeah, this is very true. Very, very
right.
true.
So, he was grabbing, 20, 30 points a night, but, he's going up and flicking the ball over a 6'2" center at 6'10", right? And then you step out. Yeah, you step out into, it's like watching those old highlights of, like Larry Bird and, cats from the 70s, right? They're playing against a bunch of accountants, right?
Yeah, as they always say, played against a bunch of plumbers.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's a tough transition, right? So I think that was probably a bit hard for him to deal with, of like being able to get a bucket whenever he wanted at the high school level, to then only getting 2 points per game in his limited action as a freshman, only shooting 36% from the field, 2 of 15 from 3. So, he's got to clean his game up. But I mean, I think just like Richards, he's got a lot of potential. He's really good at the high school level. He's got the physical tools. Just needs to get coached up and put it all together.
Yeah. Yeah. Good point. I like that. I like Josh Farmer. No, that's the only one I would say is also worth mentioning, is potential contributor guy.
Yeah, you might see like Isaiah Ado-Ankara get on the court, a former walk-on that gave a scholarship to, and then Xavier Johnson. I think it's a combo guard that got a bit of run last year. So we'll see if those guys are still in the rotation with all the new additions brought into the roster.
Yeah.
Well, you want to hit a quick Cumbia break? We'll come back and talk about the schedule a bit.
Yeah, Cumbia it up.
All right, guys, welcome back. We're going to hit on the UTSA men's basketball schedule for 2022/2023, and it's an interesting one. When I sat down and started breaking down this roster the other night, I had to go back and check to make sure I was reading it correctly. 7 of their first 8 games are at home in the Convo.
Wow. 7 of 8. Holy cow.
Dr. Campos is pulling all the strings to get these guys some wins this year, man.
Hey, man, 8-10 in the Convocation Center last year, so you got to make it happen. But we're hosting that tournament, aren't we?
Yeah, the 210 San Antonio Shootout.
Oh yeah, baby!
Get pumped, baby. We got Dartmouth coming in. We got Grambling State.
Let's
UIW
go.
Taking 281 across town.
Let's go! Yeah, I love that.
That's some can't miss tournament action right there, dude.
So that's going to be that'll be at the very end of November, right there.
Yeah, Thanksgiving week.
Time. Thanksgiving week.
Yeah.
But prior to that, so tomorrow night, Wednesday, maybe tonight, if you're listening to this, we'll be taking on the Schreiner Mountaineers in the Convo for the exhibition match. Right, the first time we'll actually be on the floor this season, but exhibition match, admission to the game is free. So if you're in San Antonio, get out to the Convo, go out there and support the boys. Maybe see one of the better performances that we have.
Unfortunately, no streaming option for that one. I think that might be an NCAA rule that you can't stream an exhibition game, but it will be on the radio. If you want to listen to Uncle Andy, you can download the iHeartRadio app. That's probably what I'll be doing.
Yep, no doubt. No doubt.
Shriner's in Kerrville. Is that right?
Yeah, it's around that area.
Second question, did you ever meet anyone that went to Schreiner?
Yes.
Okay.
My buddy's ex-girlfriend.
Was a mountaineer?
She was from, what's that damn town in the middle of San? She was from Columbus, Texas.
Oh, okay.
And she went to Schreiner. which I'd imagine isn't too different of a town than Columbus is. So maybe it just worked out there. But yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. I do know one individual that went to Schreiner University. Yeah. Yeah, it's in Kerrville.
Ah, nice.
Nice.
Yeah, I don't know. It was always so interesting to me that Schreiner is so close to San Antonio, and I know nothing about that school. It must be really tiny.
It's got to be super small, but the campus looks like it's pretty nice.
Okay. Yeah, Kerrville's a pretty area, so.
Nice, beautiful old brick buildings, columns, and some stairs. Love that.
Man, you think when Johnny Manziel was in high school in Kerrville, he ever hit up the Schreiner parties?
He was hollering at the Schreiner ladies, dude. Yeah, you know what they say. Schreiner, where the girls are finer. So, dude.
They say that? One of my favorite, our new listeners probably don't know this, but one of my favorite things we do at Almadome Audible is when UTSA plays these ridiculous like Division III, Division II schools. Andrew and I are just all about it, man. We're going in, we're finding all the details.
We love it. We love it.
It's fascinating.
We love it. We love finding, and I don't know what it is. Maybe because it feels like, at least maybe at the time whenever we were at UTSA, it didn't feel so far removed from those more like abstract schools. Like,
sure,
I used to tell people UTSA and they're like, what? Sometimes it's still like that. But back in the day, it really was a thing. Right. So soft spot for the abstract schools out there. Let's go.
All right. Well, not only is it a lot of home games for UTSA, their out of conference schedule is also extremely regional.
Yes.
So their first game is actually at home against Trinity. Mm-hmm. So another really small Division III school that, is local to San Antonio.
Local. Yep.
So that one's going to be on Conference USA TV.
Beauty.
First road trip. A&M Corpus, November 11th.
Got to get revenge in that one. We're going to Corpus Christi, the Islanders, bro. That's on ESPN Plus.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if they're still playing there, but I actually went to a UTSA A&M Corpus Christi game when I was in school, and they played like in a hockey arena. So that was a pretty cool, unique experience. So definitely check out the ESPN Plus broadcast and get a look at that.
Very cool. Yeah. Well, that's a very common thing, though, is that the hockey ice is underneath the hardwood, right? Mm-hmm. That's pretty common across the country. Even a lot of professional venues, the Stars and the Mavericks shared American Airlines Arena ever since the beginning of time.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then before the 210 San Antonio shootout, you also have a bunch of Texas schools coming into the Convo. You got St. Mary's coming in, which is a game that I'm concerned about. That could be our D2 loss of the year. We're always due for one. St. Mary is usually a pretty strong basketball program. Texas State they've really turned it around on the basketball court. They're coming into the Convo November 17th. So if you're going to pick out one game to go to this year, it's got to be the I-35 rivalry, right?
Man, dude, those Texas State UTSA games in the Convo were always such a fun time.
Yeah, and I feel like their fans will probably travel for that one, right? It's so close, right? They don't have any local games in the Sun Belt. Well, and so that'd be interesting.
Thursday the 17th, you're pretty much off all of the next week, right? So, you don't got Friday class. Yo, Thursdays.
Oh, students. Oh, okay.
Students. Yeah, so you're not Friday class. Thursdays is San Antonio. What up? Staying at your buddy's place in the Outpost. Gonna go to some games. Love it.
I like when you like role play back into being like a raging college student.
Everyone knows what my itinerary would be.
Yeah. And then they got Prairie View coming in, so that's a schedule. That's a schedule.
Okay, Trinity, Corpus Christi, St. Mary's, Texas State, Prairie View. What's your record after those 5 games?
I'm gonna say 4-1.
Wow. Holy cow. Did not see that coming at all. Only loss to Texas State?
Yeah.
Hell yeah, bro.
I mean, Corpus Christi is the only one that should be anything close to a challenge.
I mean, should be.
Should be.
But, man, I don't know, Jared.
I don't. Yeah. I mean, I get the skepticism. I really do.
Corpus Christi beat us by 19 points in the 2-1-0 San Antonio shootout last year.
Yeah.
So I love the 4-1. I love the optimism. I love believing in the talent on this roster being good enough to get us those wins.
Mm-hmm.
I'm probably going to go 3-2.
That's fair. That's fair. That's probably most likely.
I mean, Corpus or St. Mary's gets away from us. Texas State, certainly.
Gosh, dude.
But not both Corpus and St. Mary's.
Yeah, and I'm not sure how good Prairie View is either, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, we already talked a bit about the 210 San Antonio Shootout Tournament, so we'll go ahead and skip to where I think the out-of-conference schedule gets a little bit interesting.
Yes.
You got back-to-back road trips within a 3-day span of each other, so it's probably the longest road trip of the season for UTSA. They're going into the Super Pit to face New Mexico and Albuquerque on December 10th, which is a Saturday. Always a top 100 program in the country.
Always.
New Mexico there.
Yes.
Yeah, super, super strong. If UTSA is competitive in that game, that's a great indication that they'll be competitive in Conference USA, because I think New Mexico is probably going to be as good as most of those top, maybe top third of Conference USA, if you will. And they got a Pac-12 game against Utah the following Tuesday, late tip, 8:00 p.m. Central Time. That'll be on Pac-12 Network. So hopefully we'll be able to find a stream for that one.
Man, so you play New Mexico at 3:00 on Saturday, and you fly back to San Antonio that night?
No way, dude. I'm sure they're going to stay out on the West Coast.
You have to, right? To go from New Mexico to Utah, it's like a stone's throw. But to come back to San Antonio and then shoot back out there, dude, that would just be way too tumultuous of a travel schedule.
Yeah, and I don't know if UTSA is really paying for charter flights like that. So I imagine they're flying commercial to Albuquerque,
right?
Staying in Albuquerque, and then flying a day early to Salt Lake City.
And it'd probably be easier to expense some gym rental fees rather than flights for the budget, for the sake of the athletics budget. You just got to rent out a couple of gyms around Albuquerque, and then same thing in Salt Lake. And then, yeah, it'd be good to come home on Wednesday.
Man, do they pay for that? I always figured they got the hookup from some high school or something for free.
Dude, I don't know about that. I'd imagine
That's a good question.
I'd imagine they pay for some of those rentals.
Yep.
Maybe somewhere where we have some more clout, you could get away with that. But I don't know about, but maybe Henson's got connections out there in the Midwest. Never know.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. And then the last out of conference game is back home in the Convo, December 18th. They've got Bethune-Cookman. Again, I don't know how good or bad they are, but those SWAC programs are really low funded. So you would hope this wouldn't be too daunting of an opponent for UTSA. And that's one ugly out of conference slate, dude. That is not becoming of a AAC basketball program.
That's brutal. Yeah.
Like, I'm sure if we went to look right now at like Temple's at a conference or Tulsa's or Tulane's, it looks nothing like this. If I had to guess,
proper schedule. Yeah.
Well, I don't know if you want to run through the whole Conference USA schedule. I mean, they're going to, with it being a reduced conference this year, they're going to play everybody. I think they get one road game and one home game for each team.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly.
Yep. You got it right.
Yeah. But I guess we can kind of talk at a high level about what to expect from Conference USA this year. I think right off the bat might be the best season for Conference USA since UTSA has been in it. I don't know.
Trending up, most definitely. Yeah, Conference USA is pretty beefy, and they were pretty beefy last season.
I feel like every season we say, oh, this is going to be the year that two teams can get in and someone gets that at-large bid, but it's looking closer every year. I mean, between UAB, North Texas, and Western Kentucky, those are three really, really good mid-major programs that are bringing a lot of players back. UAB's got the Conference Player of the Year and Jordan Jelly Walker. UAB actually received some votes in the polls heading into the preseason, which I don't know the last time that's happened in Conference USA. But that's really big for them. So legitimate, top 30 program over there in Birmingham. And Jelly Walker is one of the best players in America, right?
Yeah. It's going to be beefy. When we take on UAB on New Year's Eve in Birmingham. That'll be the third conference game of UTSA's schedule. Yeah. And then we won't have to see them again until February.
Yeah. Oh, stadium broadcast in the Convo. Interested to see how that turns out.
Oh, that's the February one?
Yeah.
Oh, it will be very interesting to see how that turns
Yeah.
out. Yeah.
So while UAB is the overwhelming favorite to win the conference this year, Western Kentucky and UNT both received votes in the polls, or in the coaches poll for
Yep.
Conference USA.
Yep.
So those are your three favorites right there. But I also think like the ceiling of the conference has risen a bit with those Sun Belt teams leaving for the Sun Belt.
Mm-hmm.
Southern Miss was absolutely awful.
Mm-hmm.
They're gone now. So it's pretty much down to just UTSA and FIU and dragging up the bottom of the conference. And I guess Charlotte's probably not too far off. They're pretty bad right now as well. But
Yeah.
I think the conference has gotten tougher.
So UTSA was picked very, very last in the CUSA preseason poll.
Very last.
Yeah, 11 out of 11. There was a lot of feelings, a lot of emotions about how that was amongst the players. They had some stuff to say about it, ticked them off a little bit. I think it was Isaiah Addo Onkra who mentioned that he was a little bit ticked me off a little bit. And then we actually start our conference play on December 22nd against UNT. So looking at it, we've got UNT the 22nd, then we've got UAB the 31st. Those are two of our first three conference games. That's not going to be an easy start for this team. And then Middle Tennessee on January 5th, who was slated to finish fourth behind those three that got votes, right? WKU, UNT, and UAB. So, dude, it's not going to be an easy start whatsoever. You got WKU on January 7th. I mean, you're looking at a conference slate starting off against quite literally the gauntlet here, the best teams in CUSA before you get to go and see UTEP on January 11th. So it is going to be a very, very hard road getting started in conference play for UTSA. You got North Texas at the combo. You got to go see La Tech. You got to go see UAB. And then you got Middle Tennessee and Western Kentucky back to back in the combo following that to start off the new year. It's tough.
Yep, it's real tough. Let me ask you this: what is the outcome for the season that makes you feel okay about this program heading into the AAC?
So the outcome that makes me feel comfortable, to just put it in a sense of wins and losses.
Yeah. Like, let's say they get to 500 this year, and obviously if that were to happen, they're going to rack up wins and they're really poor at a conference schedule. So like maybe like 500 and they beat like North Texas and UAB once a piece or something like that. Does that make you feel okay with the direction of the program? I think that you're willing to give Steve Henson another year.
I think if you beat, buddy, I don't know if there's any.
That's a bridge too far.
I don't think there's any barometer that gives Henson another year from me.
Sure. Like he would have to make a tournament run, right? To
type shit. Yeah.
Sure.
But if you can get a win against a UNT or a UAB, just one, I mean, it would be impressive. I would be pretty impressed with that. I'm going to focus the attention to the away record. How about that? So we were 1-11 on the road last season. Yeah. We were 8-10 at home. If this team is better than 500 at home and can get close to sub 500 on the road, I'll feel a hell of a lot better about this team going to the AAC. We can get close to that 500 record overall, but really do more damage, because all of the gimme games that we have in out of conference, those are all going to be in the combo. Yeah. So if you have a stout away record, that means you win and you won some games against some solid teams, some hard teams on the road. Yeah. So give that to me. Give me a sub 500 away record to make me feel good about going to the AAC.
I say it all the time. I don't like, I would love for this program to be, a 12 seed, even if they were to get a tournament, right? Obviously, if we got in, we'd be a 15, 16, right? Mm-hmm. I would love for that to happen. I would love to be able to compete with the best mid-majors in the country. That's not what I'm asking for, man. I'm just asking for an entertaining product, something that's respectable. Investment needs to happen off the court.
That's funny.
I just want this team to be fun to watch again.
Yeah, that's crazy because you give me flashbacks of Frank Wilson's last year, and we used to talk about what do we need to see from UTSA football to know that they got better. It was like, we just want to be able to sit through 4 quarters of football without falling asleep. We want entertainment quality. So yeah, no, I think that's a good point to make. If you could have some entertainment quality basketball, that'd be really, really good. But I mean, you could also argue that Javon Jackson and Keaton Wallace makeup of this team was a very entertaining product of basketball, but didn't get you a whole lot of W's either. So
I'll happily go back to the Keaton Javon era.
Yeah.
Happily.
Trade it 10 times out of 10. Yeah.
That team was like 150 in Ken Palm. Like they were a good team. Like they didn't, win conference or anything like that, but they were solid. Like that's where the standard needs to be set. Right.
That you can compete with your opponent every night.
Right.
At least in your conference.
I also don't want UTSA to be dragging down the RPI of the American when we move in there because we're so bad that we hurt everyone's strength of schedule.
Ugh.
That's what kills me the most. I feel like we're dead weight on the conference. That's what I want to avoid.
And it feels like really this is the only sports program at UTSA that is going to be something that weighs down the conference. It's going to be a detriment to the conference. Everywhere else, we're ready to compete. We might not have the facilities, but we're ready to compete. If we talk about baseball, we might not have the facilities there, but we're ready to compete the AAC. Yeah. And that is going to be the hardest field to compete the AAC with is in baseball. Our guys are ready, man. Wholeheartedly believe in that. And you look at our Olympic sports, track and field always dominates. You look at tennis, look at golf. I mean, all these teams are going to be ready to go up there and do it. Soccer's going to be ready to go into the AAC. I don't know if basketball is.
Yep. Yeah, well said, man. We'll see how the season pans out. There's not a whole lot to be optimistic about, right? Like, I don't want to beat around the bush, right? But I think the team can surprise. I'm not asking for a lot. I just want to be competitive, show a pulse, and we'll move on from there. I do want to say we didn't talk about women's basketball. This podcast ran a lot longer than I thought it would. But we no kidding. But we covered and previewed women's basketball season extensively on our the fall roundup episode on Patreon.
Yes,
the Olympic sports roundup.
The Olympic sports roundup.
Yeah. So we went in depth on that. We talked about, Sydney Love breaking out as the likely starting point guard as a true freshman. Jordan Jenkins and Kyra White transferred from USC to UTSA and some of the accolades they've been able to pick up. So if you want to hear more about women's basketball, please go check out that podcast. That was a lot of fun. You can hear, I think, in the tone of our voice when we talk about the women's basketball program, how much more excited we are for Coach Aston's squad. And my expectations for that team are a hell of a lot higher than for the Dens. So apologies that we didn't get to talk about them a lot on this podcast, but we definitely gave them their due before we were talking about men's basketball over on the Patreon side of the house.
Sure.
We talk about the other sports real quick. I do want to give some quick shout outs before we sign off for the night.
Please.
Women's soccer begins Conference USA tournament Wednesday afternoon. By the time you guys listen to this, they might be playing right now or, later in the day, they're playing UAB. UTSA comes in as a 6 seed against a 3 seed Blazers. So best of luck to the ladies. They actually, for the first time in program history, had 4 all-conference players get selected. Anna Sutter, first team. Karen Singh, Kendall Clozo on second team, and then Sasha Dade on third team. So it's fantastic. Great job. Congratulations to those ladies, as well as Coach Pittman and his staff for continue to carry that momentum into the American. Just like we're talking about basketball, they were only a 6 seed. They barely got in the tournament, but they were so fun to watch. They competed every night. They left everything out on the pitch, man. That's all I ask for, man. I just want to be proud. I just want to be proud.
Absolutely. That's all you got to ask for.
Yep. Men's tennis also competing the ITA National Championship in San Diego this week. This is like the NCAA tournament for tennis.
Yep.
Alan Magadon and Sebastian Rodriguez have been incredible for UTSA this fall season. They'll be facing a really tough duos team from Louisville. So I don't know if UTSA has ever put a duos team in the ITA National Championship. It's a new format for the game. It just came around a couple of years ago. So really cool to see. Wish them the best of luck and hoping to receive some good news from San Diego this week. Yeah,
definitely. I think we had one omission when we were going through the roster, and I didn't realize it until I quoted him later, but Isaiah Ado-Ankara, he's a junior for UTSA this season. And he had a pretty decent sophomore year, playing 22 games with 6 starts at 16 minutes and 5 points a night, couple rebounds. But he's been here since he got out of high school. Freshman year, played in 6 games off the bench. Sophomore, got pretty involved. So I think this is a one name that we forgot that you're definitely going to see in the rotation is Isaiah Addo-Ankra. And he's had a lot of media time after practices so far in the convo. So yeah, hopefully we'll see a little bit of him and come out there and be a factor as well. So didn't want to sign off without mentioning Isaiah here in our players to watch in the rotation.
Yep. All right. Well, thank you guys. Hope you're all excited for basketball season. Maybe more than Adrian and I. We'll be here to cover it. Through better or worse, but hell or high water.
Damn right.
We'll be here.